Hello. Okay, going live on Instagram. We are now live. Oh, okay. Welcome. Welcome. Happy Monday. Oh, okay. Mitzi. No. Okay. Instagram's having an issue. Oh my goodness, look how many people are joining so fast. Oh, hello, hello, hello. Okay, let me make sure I can see all of your wonderful comments. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Hello, hello, my Merriment Makers. Welcome back to Merriment Mondays Live. This is your bi-weekly check-in for your joy, your self-love, and really just figuring out any tiny step that you can take to figure out your life. Good morning. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hi, Lorraine. Hello, Lydia. And feel free to check in and join in on the chat whenever feels good for you, but there's no pressure here today. Okay, so today we're talking about something that a lot of us, pretty much I feel like everybody will go through at some point, but we don't always say out loud, which is not caring about anything, life, or something that is really important to us. So hello, Janice. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do when we don't care about it? What do we do when we don't care about life? When nothing sounds fun, when everything feels meh. Uh, is anybody actually going through that right now? Feel free to put that up in the chat, okay? So that's what the topic is. When you're kind of watching life happen and you don't really feel connected to it. There's a lot of different kinds of feelings like this, a lot of different phases, and it's not a really a pleasant feeling necessarily, you know? Um, hello, 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 everyone, hello. Lorraine's going through it. Okay, so it doesn't really sound fun. Dissociation, disenchantment, kind of watching ourselves from the outside. It's jadedness, there's all these different kinds of things, not today, but far too often lately. All right, yeah. Okay, so before we talk about how to re-engage with life, let's talk about kind of why this happens, so we're all on the same page. Why do we stop caring? So I think that a big piece of why we stop caring is trust. Over time, when systems and relationships and experiences repeatedly disappoint us and let us down, we stop believing in them. And that loss of trust leads us to a feeling of disenchantment and avoidance. And avoidance then can kind of feel generalized to spread across multiple areas of life. Our relationships, avoiding participating in really anything, politics, institutions, connecting with strangers, looking at our bank accounts. And then we want to avoid things because it's easier to not get hurt that way, right? So has anybody felt like they've had people and systems let them down before? Is that something that resonates with you? You can let us know. And does it feel like it's safer to not engage with those things again because then you can't get hurt again? It's like not getting your hopes up again because then you won't get hurt, right? So I think we intellectually know maybe that it's not necessarily the best thing to only avoid stuff, but we also know that it makes sense too in a certain way, because if we put up a boundary, then nobody can get in. But the thing too is that eventually avoidance or having that boundary up, having like that beautiful moat around our castle so that nobody can get in, can make us feel more isolated and even more paranoid and more fearful, which then kind of ends up reinforcing that feeling that nothing is worth caring about. You know what I mean? So there are some theories of psychology that can kind of reinforce that what I'm talking about now, and I'll get into those later. But um, I just want to let you know that's kind of like what I think is happening here. But I want to just start light. I'm just going to introduce that seed and we're going to keep going light. So, what's the last thing that mildly entertained you? Okay? Like the tiniest thing, a dumb meme, a funny text, a squirrel doing like their parkour antics outside your window. No, like life-changing hobbies we're talking about. We don't need that right now. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just talking about the last thing that made you feel something other than meh. Okay? Go ahead and share that. Really check in with yourself here. Okay, we're also getting some responses of like knowing that trusting people and then avoiding that person, but knowing that we still need to deal with it. And then even noticing losing weight, but then feeling more fragile. Interesting. So it's like anything that happens where there's a shift in our understanding of reality creates a feeling of change in identity, and an experience of loss or shift creates a sense of grief. And that is something that we don't like to deal with, which means that it's an avoidance, right? We feel like it's easier to avoid in the moment, but long term it's not. But we'll get there. But let's go back to the mildly entertaining things. Okay, reading a book, actually seeing me and the background and how I look today and my energy, fantastic, love it. Yes, actually I love that because it's like silly, right? It's allowed to be frivolous. And look, I actually really love my dress. I feel like well, my boobs aren't in it right. But it's very long and yellow. I can't find the happy medium of my boobs not falling out and not being in the cup part, but it's fine. So, okay, so if you're I want you to kind of just like allow those things to not feel like I said that they're frivolous, but it's also like who cares, you know? Let those things be fun. Let those things make you smile. My favorite comedian says, "Don't be a hard laugh. Like don't be a tough laugh, you know?" Have you ever like have you ever, I don't know if anybody's ever here has ever gone to see stand-up comedy, but I used to go constantly, and there's a lot of people who kind of just go to the theater and they kind of like fold their arms. They're like, "Make me laugh. I dare you. You can't do it." And that's somebody who's kind of like a tough laugh, you know? So it's like, why, what is the intent here? And are we approaching life like that? Like, yeah, you know what? Guilty until proven innocent here with all the good things in life. Everything sucks, and I need you to show me that it's good. What if we did it the opposite way? What if it's like, you know what? I don't think everything's funny, but I'm gonna allow my threshold of what is funny to be lowered a little bit, you know? When people talk back to the actors it haunts. Yeah, like why are we're making it like we're making it fun and loose and silly, being less serious about it. Like just relaxing a little and understanding that this is just a joke. It's all just a little silly. And we're gonna be an easy laugh today and forevermore. And just letting it be good. Letting it be a little bit good. 1% good today. Okay? And if you're looking for more support in a way that feels like not that aggressive, if you haven't seen the Merriment Mixer is coming up, the very first one. It's very cool. There's a virtual one and then there's a Baltimore one. So if you're local to me, you can come and we'll hang out in person. And if you're not, we can do it online. And it's this like hour-long thing where you don't even have to talk if you don't want to, but the opportunity is for us to create connection and community. And I feel like that's something that a lot of us are really kind of missing and lacking. Over time, we've kind of been isolated and disconnected, and it's harder to make friends as adults. That's just true for all generations. But, I think we're really craving people, and even if it is digital, and you don't, and we're also all out of practice with socializing, so you don't have to talk. I can talk the whole time if it needs to happen, but there's just a way to practice being around people, and it's only $5, and you also get like some activities and stuff that are thrown in as a bonus with it. So I think it's really cool and fun, and you can do it whether you're, across the world or you're near me. And yeah, you can check that out on it's uncustomary.org/mixer. Okay. So what do we do when we don't care about anything? All right. So one, stop trying to find your passion. Everybody is like, mm, what's your purpose in life? Well, first of all, I don't know that everybody has a specific purpose and a specific passion and that it's going to stay the same throughout their entire life. I think sometimes we've really gotten mixed up on that message, and that maybe sometimes what you're good at ends up being your passion and purpose. And it's not always like this intuitive nature thing that is like called upon you. Sometimes we just need people to do stuff, but also it's way too much pressure. It's way too much pressure, especially when you're in a state like this. Okay. So, I am not getting any of like the notifications on Instagram. I hope it's working. It's fine. All right. If you're on Instagram and you can't see me, maybe come over to YouTube or Facebook. All right. So, way too much pressure to try to find your passion. Give that up for now. It doesn't matter. It'll be fine. Passion often comes from engagement. And when we talk about passion, what are we talking about? We're talking about like excitement, right? Which is the opposite of what we're talking about disenchantment right now, not caring about anything. So the opposite of that, you might be looking for the antonym, which is finding your passion. I think it's too many steps. Going from not caring to being passionate, maybe too many steps. So you need to build up on this. How can we go from passion, like not caring, to passion? It comes from engagement. It comes from doing things. So the this is coming from what in psychology we call it the self-determination theory, and it's really just about participating in life. Okay. So instead of searching for something that's life-changing, look for something that's mildly tolerable. What are you willing to tolerate? Uh, in Big Magic, Liz Gilbert refers to this as the shit sandwich you're willing to eat. And I love that. I love that so much. So did you used to like reading? Then open a book and just stare at the words. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just here. Okay. I mean, really, even not even micro movements anymore. We're just showing up to the book. Okay. Did you used to like music? Right? That was something that you remember liking? Then put on a song that you haven't heard in a while, even if it doesn't move you or sound the same. Now, I want to remind you that um, if you're not feeling like there's spectrums of everything in life, yeah? So you might not be feeling wildly apathetic right now, completely jaded, and that's okay. But I think that these tips and things, or whatever you want to call them, can apply to things in general for you, even if you are on this scale somewhere. And you can also remember them or write them down for in the future if you end up feeling this way, you know? Yeah, I keep getting Janice is saying, I keep getting that message over and over. You have to take action, just any action. Yes, exactly. So micro movements, I think we talked about this the last Merriment Mondays, are kind of just like doing like the bare minimum of, when you open a book, if you want to write a book, the first step would be like getting a pen. And you don't have to do any writing. It's just kind of getting a pen, you know? So this is even like doing less than that. It's like, I used to think I wanted to write a book. Let me go stand near a book, you know? And you're not having any expectation that you're going to feel anything around the books. Because right now, what we're at is that what I'm expecting is that you feel so apathetic and non-moved and not connected to the things that you felt like you were before, that you are confused and annoyed and frustrated by that. And you don't even feel like yourself. So you're just like, nothing works. Everything sucks. I'm not me, right? So it's really it's not necessarily like exposure that you're doing. It's kind of almost immersion. You just want to kind of plop yourself into places and spaces and around stuff that makes you aware that there still is stuff. I know that sounds weird, maybe, but it's like, okay, so like again, we went back to the reading thing. I like, I used to like reading. Can you make a list of stuff you used to like to do? Okay, so like Lorraine saying, I like to volunteer. So if that's something that you still like to do, then great. Like we can even dial it back a little bit, right? So if it's something that you aren't actively doing right now because you're feeling like you can't, you don't care enough to go do it, or you're having some conflicting feelings about why or how or the structure or the system or like whatever, then what if you just broke it down into many, 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 many micro steps and you started looking at things online about people volunteering? I think sometimes one of the ways to get yourself, not get yourself to care, but like to create some sort of emotional connection within yourself is to look at a story, watch a story. Not necessarily like a montage, but one of like something with a beginning, conflict, and like a story online. YouTube is probably a really great resource for this, where whatever subject you are hoping to be reconnected to, you look and you try to find an inspirational story or documentary about that subject and see how that subject affected another person, especially someone who was not doing well, right? So I think empathy can be something that can really connect us back to life in general, to ourselves, and then even maybe simultaneously in tandem with that additional topic, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say running is something that you want to be connected to, and you aren't feeling any connection to running, and you're also just feeling really jaded about the world, right? What if you searched for documentaries about running and you find one where there's somebody who like couldn't walk. They had a horrible accident. And then you watch the documentary and you see the way that they connect to running and that it helps them kind of reconnect with their lives. And I think sometimes it can help us. Sometimes it can make us feel it doesn't really help anything. I don't necessarily know that it'll make us feel worse. I guess it can. I think anything can do anything, but it's worth a shot, maybe. You can gauge how you feel. Sometimes giving ourselves perspective can help our own minds, though. It's worth a shot, maybe. Um, so what's something that you used to care about that you could maybe just be near without pressure? You can think about that. You could share it if you'd like. Okay, so then going back to this is, what is something that you can give yourself permission to do the bare minimum with? Last Merriment Mondays, we talked about this as well, with just giving ourselves the allowance to not have to do everything. I remember Janice said that she was gonna not do all of the laundry and put it all away and not be like rushed about that. So we're going to take that a step further today, especially if you're feeling like you're not caring about anything, if you're not connecting to everything, and allow yourself to understand that existing is enough, that you don't have to love life right now. You just have to be here. And you can start maybe sentences with the phrase, I'll just put on my shoes. I'm just gonna open the window. No big expectations, no big heavy ideas, just little tiny things. And then last time we also talked about the 2 minute thing, the 2 minute rule. I think that was this this group. It might have actually been the personal, I don't know. I've taught a lot of classes recently, but this 2 minute experiment is different. So if nothing sounds fun, I want you to try an experiment where for 2 minutes you set a timer and you try something for 2 minutes. Like, sometimes like you can do like forced writing and it's like you don't let your pen leave the page for 2 minutes. It's like that. But you just do it for 2 minutes. So that's 120 seconds. I believe you can do it, especially if you don't care, who cares, right? It's only what else are you doing, right? So pick a pick an activity and go. Set a timer, 2 minutes, and just see if you can get some dopamine that's not from scrolling and it's from doing something, you know? You can do 2 minutes. Yeah, Melissa's saying, I can do 2 minutes. Yes. Melissa also says, I used to enjoy taking classes to learn new things, but now I can't sit down to focus. We're all having a bit of a time focusing. We're at a very interesting part of the world in the timeline right now. You are not alone with that. We are, I think we've all kind of gotten to a point where we've streamlined not everybody, but we've streamlined like who we're listening to, and we've cut down on, the bad things in our feeds, and we have like optimized who we're listening to, but we still don't have all the time to listen to them. We don't have time to watch the TV shows and the content that we do want to consume, and then do all the other things that we want to do. So our focus and attention is the most prized possession that we have, and we need to harness it a little bit more. So I think maybe part of, something we could maybe consider with why don't we care about other things is that we are constantly stimulated, and some of us aren't as affected by it, you know? Some of us aren't, and some of us, I think all of us are, but some of us are affected much more than the others, you know? And I think maybe it's possible that people on the spectrum or neurodivergent people are maybe more likely to be more affected. I don't know. That's a harebrained theory of mine, that I don't necessarily have research to back up, but there might be. I don't know. So I, but I do think that highly sensitive people would be easily more affected. Anyway, my point with all of this is if our focus is distracted, then we need to be able to, as I'm like doing this, all this stuff is happening outside and I'm getting distracted. It's fine. Okay, so if our focus is distracted, we need to be able to understand that maybe one of the reasons that we're not as happy and not caring about our lives or connected to the things in our lives that used to make us happy is because we're constantly overstimulated. We're constantly being drawn in so many different directions. And maybe there needs to be a day of the week or a time during the day where we cut things down and we digitally detox. And there needs to be a time where we're not constantly being, things aren't constantly going into us, and we're actually allowing our thoughts to come out and decompress, right? So maybe that's a part of it. You got to figure out what works for you. Okay. Okay. That being said, you are allowed to have dumb distractions depending on where you are, you know? So there's actually, it's called the zygamic effect. that small meaningless distractions can absolutely help prevent mental spirals. So silly YouTube videos do their thing. They have a purpose. It's just that we don't want to do that constantly all the time. But, when you need to play a song 12 times in a row or watch a cat video for your mental health, that is a real thing. And if you need to tell people that Mary told you that it's backed by a scientific study, you can do that. Okay. So what's something that you can do for yourself now, today, if that's where you're at, or just know in the future that if you get into a space where you need to give yourself permission to do the bare minimum, that you could do just this thing today. I can just take my medicine. I can just take a shower. I can just put on my shoes, right? So what is that thing for you? What are you going to be able um, to do in that state? Feel free to share. All right. The next thing is when your brain is stuck on autopilot, novelty can help. And novelty, we're talking about dopamine. Novelty triggers dopamine, but it doesn't have to be a big adventure. It doesn't have to be a giant thing. Small novelty works. And like we said earlier, any action helps. It's just this inertia of sitting still, being still, not doing anything, continuing to not care and not kind of injecting something new into the mix. So just get up and sit in a different spot in your house. Get a drink that you wouldn't normally get. Order it to your house. Watch a different show that you wouldn't like. If you have to, do it ironically. Be like, oh, I would never watch this. Live stream it. I don't care. I'm not live stream it. What is it? Live tweet it. Yeah, it can definitely help to just try it. Just a little bit of effort, minimum effort. It can lead to a flow. Yes, inertia, inertia, inertia. Sitting, staying still keeps you sitting still. Just getting up a little bit. We're not asking you to get up and be like, I'm gonna go run a marathon. That's not what we're asking. Not at all. It doesn't make any sense and you're gonna hurt yourself. We are asking you to be like, you know what? I'm gonna get up off the floor slowly, slowly. But if I don't get off the floor, I'm gonna atrophy. And that's not what we want. Other things like just go a different route to anything. How can you go a different route in any way right now? Eat something different. Ask yourself a different question. Remember those MySpace quizzes? What if you did like one of those surveys? I don't know. Actually have a list on my website of 50 ways to mix up your routine. We should link that here. You can just Google uncustomary.org 50 ways mix up your routine. It'll come up. Okay, so what's a tiny, harmless, not hard way that you can break your pattern today? Yes. Melissa says, I need to take a nap and shut my eyes. Listen to yourself. Do it. And I can accept that can't control everything and that I'm okay. Ooh, yeah, that's good. I love that. Fantastic. Mm. All right. Now, let your brain pick the path of least resistance. Okay? We've talked about what I call jelly overwhelm, which is just option overwhelm. When your decision fatigue is high, you need to remove the choices and let your brain take the easiest route. You need to reinforce this. So we talked about this last time, but I need you to remember, limit your options for stuff. Don't give yourself more reasons to be overwhelmed when you're in this state. We need to get your back to like basics, so to speak, right? So if you already aren't caring about everything, you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling hopeless, we don't need to give you additional reasons to be stressed and overwhelmed. So that means like give yourself really simple rituals for eating and getting dressed and just I don't know, like things that are really kind of the basic lower level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the survival based stuff. If you can get that on lock and just in a flow or a rut even. Let's allow this to be a rut so you don't have to think about it, okay? Then do that too. I know I just said mix up your routine, but I don't know, like let do which ones make sense for you, okay? If this part is you're like, okay, actually that part makes sense. I would rather have my breakfast decided for me. Let me do that. And that way I don't have to worry about it because food seems overwhelming. Or if you're like, you know what, I'm tired of eating the same thing every day and I want to order a smoothie, then do that. You know, these are different ideas, different tools. Everything doesn't work for everyone, and every one thing doesn't work for everyone all of the time. So that's something you need to remember for yourself. That everything I say isn't going to work for you. And even when you find something that I say that does work for you, it's not going to work 100% of the time. These are ideas for you for a toolbox. So what we're talking about right now is removing options and letting your brain pick the path of least resistance. So another way that you can do this is grounding yourself, sensory grounding. So when we remove choices, we let your brain take the easiest route. And also sensory grounding, when your emotions feel distant, you can try doing something that is allowing your body to connect with the outside world. So very simple mindfulness exercises, right? Holding something soft, listening to an instrumental song on repeat, watching a looping video of ocean waves or a cat needing a blanket. In the Merriment Makers, I walk you through a more kind of advanced somatic awareness exercise of kind of just feeling where things are in your body. So if nothing sounds fun, I want you to think about what is the easiest, most brainless thing you could do right now. Doesn't have to be anything I just said. What is the easiest, most brainless thing you could do right now? Sometimes all you need is a little dopamine without any effort. Okay. So it could be scrolling a hashtag that you like of puppies or nostalgic vintage stuff. It could be listening to a podcast while you're laying down. It could be chewing gum, rubbing soft fabric. It could be opening a window and sitting in front of it or just drinking a cold drink. The things that we need to do or want to do or can help us do not need to be a 10-step process. Sitting outside and having a lollipop in your mouth, that's a pleasure and it can feel good and that's nice. Like it's that's it. Melissa says she likes to play solitaire online. Fantastic. Do that. So if you can't so this is a problem that I think people have in this spot where we're at. So not being able to remember what we liked. So if that's a problem for you right now, I want you to ask yourself these questions. If I had to watch a movie, which one would annoy me the least? What's a food I used to eat all the time, but I haven't had in a while? What's a color that feels the least bad right now? And what's the last thing I almost laughed at? So you can kind of frame topics and subjects in life as if it's like, what's the least annoying one? What's something that I used to do? What's the least bad version? And what's the time that I almost enjoyed it? I think that's a way to kind of reframe your favorites, subjects, mediums, content, resources, whatever, in a way that's like kind of getting your brain to reconnect and reframe things like food and colors and things in life, you know? Because you're not asking your brain to say, what's your favorite? What do you love? You're asking it to say, what's like not the worst, logically. Okay. Right now, I'm gonna what we've been talking about up until now has been basically, I feel like self-development is available for two different kinds of people in two different states of life. And it's people who are doing not really well, like they're not caring about life, feeling very jaded, and they want to just do better, a little bit better, okay. And then the other part of self-development are people who are probably doing all right, and they kind of just want to do really good, you know? And and they're looking for like tips and hacks and things. So I've been realizing this recently and understanding that the way that the delivery and the resources are given is given to the same audience because those two different kinds of people are coming to the same people who are delivering the resources, meaning you might be here because for two completely different reasons, right? So like for example, are you going to the gym because you're already fit and you just want to like tighten up your six pack? Or is it because like you get winded going up the stairs and you want to be able to walk? You know what I mean? So there's two different kinds of self-development. And I have been teaching both kinds, but without kind of being very distinct about what resources are for which people. So I want to get better about doing that. And I'm going to try to start at some point later this year, make it clear in all of the memberships and the resources and things, which kind of video, which kind of resource this is for, which audience. But right now, I just want to be clear that like everything up until this point was for more of like I'm not doing well and I just want to feel a little bit better. But right now, I'm actually going to transition into a space for just like a couple minutes where I'm going to be talking about something a little bit maybe more advanced. So if you're in survival mode right now, this is where maybe you can pause or just take this in with a grain of salt or just hold it for later because this is not, if you're only in survival mode, this might not be helpful for you. Okay? So just wanted to be clear about that. But at the end, I'll have more stuff. Okay, so some of you are, trying to get through the day, and that is here. That's what we're all doing too, and that's valid. And other people might be ready to push beyond the meh and go into something different as well. So if you are in the um, going beyond the meh phase, this is where we're going to talk about what I'm going to call the unfair solution. So when a system has been unfair to you, the fair response would be to give up. Okay. We talked in the beginning about trust and how most of the time the reason that we end up not caring about things is because we have been betrayed and let down by relationships and systems that promised us something and then consistently betrayed us by not delivering that thing. So in life, there's constantly trade-offs, actually. There is not really anything that you'll ever do in this life where there is no compromise of a trade-off. There are better trade-offs as you move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but there's never no trade-off, you know? Um, there's different values. That's really all that there is. So you have two choices, essentially, when a system or a person has become unfair to you and betrayed your trust. You can keep going and continue to live your life and kind of ignore that system and what they're doing, and do live your life in spite of that unfairness. And you can also become someone who stops doing what you want to do because of that unfairness. Now, there are obviously nuances in between these spectrums. You could argue that you can riot and argue against these things and bring systems down. And if we are assuming that things remain the same, that you can't control what other people do, even if we're just talking on a micro level of relationships, right? Not systems, but relationships. People being unfair to you, lying or cheating or whatever, is the fair response, arguably, could be just to give up, like I said. But the real trade-off, I feel like, is your mental health. So I I think we get these, it's really about our identity. Remember, I mentioned earlier how we can, when we lose something, we have this feeling of grief, right? So we can also take on different parts of a new identity. Things that people ask me a lot are like why I'm not embarrassed about things that are a little weird that I do, like standing on the street or wearing loud outfits and things that I don't really consider to be, embarrassing, but people think are courageous. And I think it's, part of it is, I don't know, I think maybe I'm wired to tolerate any sort of commentary differently than the average person. But I think it's also kind of built into consistently putting myself in spaces where there is feedback and also um, experiencing adversity and rising above it with resilience. And we can also look at resilience as an act of rebellion as well. You can look at resilience as an act of rebellion. So I want to bring up the concept of post-traumatic growth. So most of the time when we talk about trauma, we only discuss the negative aspects of it, and that completely tracks and makes sense. And there are an extremely large percentage, a majority actually, of people who experience trauma, a traumatic event, and don't develop PTSD as a result. What happens is they experience growth. It's called post-traumatic growth. And you can look up the study. The original one is by Tedeschi and Calhoun in 2004. And the point of this is really for us to understand that trauma doesn't, it's never that we need to be grateful for the trauma. It's that what happens is by experiencing adversity, we become more complex, diverse, and strong people. And in that way, I am actually grateful. It's not that we're ignoring the pain or that when we think about the experience, we're happy about it or that it feels good. That's not what we're talking about. In fact, I believe the original study was done in the 50s about post-traumatic growth, and it was done on Holocaust survivors. And they were asking them all sorts of questions and how they felt about being somebody who was in a concentration camp. And they said that they wouldn't go back and, choose it again. But having that's been their reality, they think that they're a better, stronger person as a result. So that was kind of the origin of post-traumatic growth as a concept and a theory and a study. And I just want to be clear that like this didn't come out of like people claiming trauma about anything. It was something very serious. So the point is that I do believe at the end of the day that we do decide how we want to live in response to anything. And that doesn't mean that things don't hurt, but we get to choose what we want to do about it and how we want to help as well. So there's so many examples of beautiful, wonderful people who are joyful activists of resistance. Like people, what I mean by that is artists and activists and thinkers and creators who made things despite their trauma and hardship, like Frida Kahlo and Maya Angelou. And oh my goodness, there's so many. So I would love for you to think about how you could potentially respond to unfairness. Maybe your unfairness is drastically different than the average. I know that when I share my stories with people, their jaws drop. I understand. I really do. And also, can we express our response to unfairness in a way that expresses us instead of a way that shrinks us? Because creativity and connection, I believe, are one of the two things that make us the most human. And if we isolate ourselves and stop caring and don't keep going as the happy, fun weirdos that we are, haven't we let them win? So, okay. If any of this is resonating, I just want to remind you that there's free resources. I did post or I made a new platform for the Positive Pulse, and it's really cool. It's over on this thing called Mighty Network, so you can access it on the computer or on an app. And oh, thanks, Melissa. Um, and it's really cool. There's 50 new resources in there, and it's free. And the way that you can connect on there is so much better than before. And also that the Merriment Mixer is a place where, we can push back from disconnection to put yourself in spaces that remind you that joy is possible. And also in the Positive Pulse, there's like a space for events, and it'll remind you about all these events that are coming up. It's pretty cool. Oh, that's such a great point, Janice, that animals shake and tremble after something traumatic, literally to shake it off and recenter their CNS and like not let the trauma sit there. Yeah. So like that's why like a lot of like when we are like shaking our legs and like yeah, even it's so fascinating to watch animals do stuff. Yeah. Uh when I did, if you go into the Positive Pulse, there's an anxiety seminar, and we do a bunch of like different things that help regulate and activate your vagus nerve and your parasympathetic nervous system. And there's so many different things that you can do. And there were a couple things that most people that took it were the ones that like really helped them. And one of them was just rocking. And the other one was, I think it was the butterfly hug. Those were the two that people were like really, really liked out of like the ones that, were physically noticing them, their physiology calming down. But after everybody did those sequence of things, there was nobody that didn't come down at least 3 points on their anxiety scale. And it's just like, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we have to reset ourselves. And that's a really good point, Janice, that like it comes back to action, doesn't it? The snake isn't just sitting there dormant and going into a state of inertia of sitting, right? It's like, let's do something. What if we did that right now? What if we stood up and shook it out? Shake it off, 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 shake it off. Shake out your limbs, shake out your butt, shake out your feet, shake out your, what rhymes with butt? Mm. So if you're, oh, let me read these. I think this is so helpful. You're awesome. I love that we can have merriment even during times that are challenging or difficult. Making mini 2-minute choices is a great way to rethink the things that we used to love, and life can be unfair, but we have to get through it together. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, merriment isn't only joy. The goal is joy, right? But we can't access joy if we don't acknowledge kind of like what's in the way, so to speak. So this is not about avoidance, in any way. So if you're, I think another fear that might be here in this space, like this mindset, is that we'll never care again, you know? Um, when you're in this space of feeling jaded and ugh, it's like, this is me now. I don't, I'm never gonna care again. This is just how it is forever. And I hear that. There's so many times where I've been in a mentally different state and I can't imagine ever feeling differently again. And then something shifts, and then I'm like, oh, that was silly, right? But when you're there, it feels permanent. And I kind of just want to remind you that it isn't, even if you don't believe me. But if you do believe me, that would be great. Let somewhere in your body hear me that it's not permanent. It's not. Your brain is built for neuroplasticity. It is always changing, even when it feels stuck. It had to change to get stuck, right? So right now, it's not about forcing joy. It's about giving your brain breathing room. And eventually, it's going to reconnect with the world. You do have to do a little bit. But think about it like a dimmer switch, you know, those fancy ones where it spins or goes up. It's not just an on-off button. Right now, things might be at the lowest setting and it looks like it's completely off. But just a small boop, nudge will brighten it up just a little bit. Okay. Is there anything from today's episode that feels doable? Melissa already said the 2-minute choice feels really good. Anybody else that's still here on YouTube and Facebook want to share something that they want to do this week? Moving forward, no pressure, no expectations, just something that might be tolerable. Accepting where I'm at right now, it's okay. Yes. And in the in the YouTube and Facebook caption, the description for the video, I also put in a link for a silly video. It's like a laughter challenge, a no laugh challenge. It's just a silly video. So the link is in the show notes. Or you can also just Google try not to laugh compilations. Those are fun. Just a little small brain reset. And if you want something a little deeper but still gentle that's on this subject tangentially, it's a free masterclass called Re-Enchanting Your Life. And that is designed to help you slowly reconnect with the world. And it's no pressure, it's just an option. And that is also linked in the show notes, uncustomary.org/enchanted. But the biggest takeaway from today, I think, is that you don't have to care about everything right now. You don't even have to care about this right now. You just have to be here. And yeah, remember that if you're looking for more stuff that might help you, or if you just want people around you, then check out the Positive Pulse It's a free space for reconnecting with yourself and other people. uncustomary.org/positive-pulse. And the Merriment Mixer events are coming up in the next week. And there are still tickets left. And there's much more very cool things that you can get to boost your energy on uncustomary.org. And you can find the links to all of these things at uncustomary.org. But you do not have to feel good to deserve kindness. You just have to be. Lynn's gonna get outside and get sun on their face and move for just a few moments. That sounds perfect. It's okay to hibernate and then go slow. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Perfect. Okay. All right. If you're not in Positive Pulse, come on over. It's free. It's awesome. If you haven't checked out the Merriment Mixer, go do that. Only $5 for more friends. And it's virtual and it's in Baltimore, 2 different events. And there's the free, there's 2 links in the show notes for the silly Try Not to Laugh compilation and the free masterclass for Re-Enchanting Your Life at uncustomary.org/enchanted. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, like the video, like the chat, like anything that you can wherever you are. And if you want to share it to your feed, that helps a lot. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here, sharing your time and attention and focus. Love it. And I can't reinforce how much cooler the Positive Pulse is over on Mighty Networks. It's fantastic. I will see you there and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, babes.